When you think about number sense, what exactly comes to your mind? Is it your child's ability to count numbers 1 to 100, or their ability to actually complete their tasks using a worksheet? Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is anuoluwapomichaelayeni. I'm an early years educator, phonics and diction expert, and an elocution. On this channel, I talk about everything early years education, phonics, and diction. If you're new here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you're notified when my videos come on. Today we're talking about number sense, and number sense refers to a deep understanding of numbers. When a child is said to have a good number sense, it means that the child can link objects to numbers using the right quantity, understanding measurements, understanding sizes, and how they can be described and compared from one to another. Number sense is not particularly your child's ability to rote count from 1 to 100 or their ability to identify numbers. It majorly has to do with quantifying, measuring, and being able to make sense of numbers and how they can be represented. Now, what should number sense look like in the early years? Number sense in the early years should include one-to-one correspondence. That is, your child should be able to count and represent objects to match numbers accurately. It is important that the child does not just know that this is 5. Can the child count out 5 objects and match them to the number 5? Can the child count out 3 objects and match them to the number 3 without being prompted? So when we teach children numbers, it is important that we teach each number alongside the quantity. Now, this does not mean teaching 1 to 100 alongside its quantity, but while you teach 1 to 5 for a start, you teach the representation of each using quantity. 1 toy, 2 toys, 3, all the way to 5. You can even use different ways to represent, such as representing with objects, representing with fingers, representing on a die, representing on a domino, representing on a 10 frame, representing with counters. There are different ways that numbers can be represented. With one-to-one correspondence, children do not only identify numbers, but they can match them to the right quantity in the right way. Now, the next is understanding quantity, which can also be referred to as cardinality. Now, this has to do with where a child can count objects on their own and understanding how many there are. This means when you ask your child how many toys, the child can say 1, 2, 3, knowing that the last number was 3 and being able to say that there are 3 objects are 2 different things. Some children might be able to count, but they might not be able to recall the last number they have said to be able to understand that this is the number that I'm being asked. This is also a very important skill when it comes to developing number sense in children. Next is subitizing. Subitizing can be fun when the children understand it. This is their ability to say how many without particularly counting. That means they understand the pattern of the number representation. So when the child says, for instance, this, the child knows that this is 4. When a child says this, the child knows that this is 6, without particularly having to touch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they understand the pattern that when we have 2 up, 2 down on a die, or 1, 2, 3, 4 like this on a 10 frame, that makes 4. So when they've been introduced to different forms of representation while learning about one-to-one correspondence, they also become familiar with the pattern and they are able to subitize. That is, to say how many without counting. Subitizing is what adults do when they are playing games that have to do with dice. An example would be Ludo. You don't particularly need to count the number of dots you see on a die to know how many. This is because you have learned to subitize. This is another way to build up number sense in children. Teach them to subitize. Next is comparing numbers. With a good number sense, the child should be able to compare the numbers to say which is more, which is less, which is equal. That way, it shows that they understand how bigger numbers are formed as compared to smaller number, and they know when one number is greater than the others. So while we teach children about numbers, it is important that they can also compare numbers, and this would help them to be able to sequence or order numbers, which has to do with arranging the numbers either in ascending or descending order. Next, we have part whole. A good understanding of numbers would help children to know the different parts that make up a whole. This can also be called number bonds. Knowing the different numbers that can make 5, the different numbers that can make 10. An example would be 7 and 3 making 10, 8 and 2 making 10, 5 and 5 making 10, 9 and 1 making 10. A good number sense helps a child to be able to list the different bonds for the bigger number. This would also help them when they have to solve some addition or subtraction problems, as their ability to identify number bonds would help them to be able to solve certain problems without particularly adding or subtracting the numbers. They already know that 8 and 2 would make 10, so if they see 10 minus 8, they know that the next answer should be 2. And if they see 8 plus 2, they already know that the answer is 10, because these are number bonds. Now let's talk about what number sense is not. Number sense is not about rote counting without understanding the number that comes next, the number that is bigger or smaller, or understanding the pattern for representing the numbers. Number sense is not about memorizing without meaning. The children should understand and should be able to solve math problems going from simple to complex with a solid number sense. Number sense is not about page-by-page worksheets. Having a good number sense does not mean that their math books will be filled. It is even more important that the mathematics is made practical for children in the early years. As famously quoted, children should first hold math in their hands before they hold it in their head. So make it as practical as possible. Let them see the object that they are working with. Let them work with this object, represent with different ways, represent with different patterns, and that way it will help them to have a good picture of what they're talking about. Next, number sense is not about forcing abstract sums on children or getting them to be able to write big numbers. Knowing how to write from 1 to 100 does not mean your child has a good number sense. If your child does not know that 60 and 2 makes up 62, then there is no point having him write 62 or 78 or 95. Let them first understand the numbers from 1 to 10 and maybe from 1 to 20 before you start to take them on to bigger numbers. Now, here are some of the ways you can build number sense in the early years. Use playful activities, use songs. Nursery rhymes can help to teach numbers, and then role play as well. Think about 10 green bottles sitting on the wall. One green bottle accidentally falls down. How many are left? When the children role play this and they knock off one object of the wall, they know that when 1 is taken out from 10, they have 9. They are getting to solve the problem without particularly having to count, because this song teaches them to count back. This song teaches them 1 less. This song teaches them subtraction. Next, we have counting out objects or board games. Some board games such as Ludo or even Snakes and Ladders would help your children to learn about numbers. They will learn to subitize when they roll their die. They will learn to count and represent using their one-to-one correspondence as they match the object to the number they have rolled. Next, we have building blocks, creating patterns, counting. We also have some daily routines, such as even activities around the house that have to do with get 2 spoons, get 5 spoons. How many can you see there? Some of these would help your children to develop an amazing number sense as well. Finally, remember that number sense makes mathematical problems easier. It makes addition easier. It makes subtraction to make sense to them, and it improves their problem-solving skills and increases their confidence. So it is important to note that number sense is more important than your child's ability to write up to a bigger number. While you're teaching or supporting your child's learning, focus more on developing their number sense. When that number sense is developed appropriately, even with smaller numbers, the more they learn bigger numbers, the better they would get with it, because they already have a good understanding of the number composition. So big numbers would not be a challenge at that point. So from the start point, help your children to understand how the numbers 1 to 5 are made up, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, and gradually increase it as they display a good understanding of these numbers. I hope that you have enjoyed watching this video. Please be sure to give us a like, comment if you have any questions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.